Hey, Joe Mastriano, CPA, and today I just want to let everyone know that IRS is off the chain like they have been for the past few years. I'm telling you, aggressive collection people and auditors, they make stuff up. The letters don't even, reflect the actual transcript or what the truth is about what people owe and what they've filed. Here's an example. I'll cover the name here. Those of you who want to take a look at this, the numbers on the bottom are the same. And what this is a notice saying that my client, we found an error in your 2020 return in tax payments. And so we changed your return to correct this error. But when you come down here, it says your calculations exactly the same as the IRS calculations. The taxable income is exactly the same, and the money that was paid was exactly the same. And so what you have is nothing is owed. The return was correct. The money sent in was correct, and everything zeroed out. So what error were they correcting? Nothing. I can go on and on. This is going to be a little bit of a rant today. Revenue offices, we've sent stuff twice to, ignores it, and then bam, levies my client's account. Um, Auditors, I do have to say, working with people at the IRS, they're nice, decent people. I've done this for over 43 years. I've met dozens of IRS employees. I know how they operate. I've talked to way more than dozens, and a lot of them have managers, a lot of them come and go, and a lot of them realize the service is not quite what they thought it was when they signed up. And it doesn't really matter. Taxpayers, all of us just really want to file and pay our taxes. Some of us are foolish enough to believe stuff online about how it's not constitutional, and they fall into these traps and these tax shelters and these stupid plans to put your kids on the payroll even though they never show up at your office, and they get in trouble and they call me to bail them out. But mostly people, when it comes to audits, they go to these tax preparers that don't explain to them what the IRS requests and requires that they do to support the deductions on their returns, such as the invoice and proof of payment that came from them and not from another family member, and also that it was a business purpose if you're taking a business deduction. And there's all these little quirks. And when you just have quick returns done by preparers that enter the information into a tax package, and then you're going to get in trouble. And I laugh now. I posted this the other day because for next year, the IRS is rolling out a free tax program so they don't have to deal with TurboTax or Tax Act or Community Tax or anybody else that they've hired to help people prepare tax returns. The problem, though, is when people go online to do returns themselves to save money, they're not getting the advice that they need. And that's the key. It's not the tax preparation itself. You can come to my office, do my 1 hour consultation. I'll teach you how to do your own return, and I'll tell you how to make sure that you're not audited. And I'll also show you the ins and outs and pitfalls and what you need to do to make sure that you can prove the deductions on your return. Problem is, a lot of people shortcut this and don't do it. And the IRS, instead of explaining this to people, they just want to feed you back into their system. Totalitarianism, here we come. That's all we need is for people to be doing their own tax returns, even if you're smart enough to do it. But if you're smart enough to do it, why not just download a program for a free program from TurboTax or Tax Act and do your own return? Like I said, it's not the preparation of the return itself is the issue. Sometimes it is, but 90% of the times it's not. It's people not understanding how to protect their items on the return. You see, you don't get penalized for filling out the return wrong. You only get penalized when you don't pay the right amount of taxes. So I've had people put deductions in wrong places on the return, but when you put them in the right places, they barely affect the calculation of tax. So big deal. So that's something that the IRS is doing now. That's going to make audits more in their favor and more control over the population as far as taxes are concerned. So what else is going on now? People being charged different amounts, transcripts from last year not matching transcripts of this year, continuing to lose documents, continuing to mess people's situations up. Oh, my own situation, of course. I now have to prove to them yet again that I filed my corporate tax return on time. They disallowed an extension saying it was late, only it wasn't late, but they decided it was late. They do this to people so they can get extra money from them. I'm also getting letters that the statute dates have expired and they don't care. If you're too stupid to know the statute date expired, they're just going to suck that money out of you anyway and say, okay, we got your money, bye, and leave it up to you to go after them to try to get it back. So I've been doing IRS representation since 1980, 43 years, and I've never seen it this bad. And in an effort to prove it, and in an effort to put stuff on the IRS website, and I noticed on a CPA journal and some other stuff about all these great improvements they're doing. I know they're doing something because I talk to IRS employees, but these are not great improvements. Great improvements would be answering the phone, for example. When I called up on that extension on my corporate return that was bounced back saying it wasn't filed on time, I decided to call up the numbers that everybody else uses, and because I didn't want to pay my service for it. I was on hold for 2 hours. 2 hours. This is how they're improving the response time on the phones. Um, the IRS really cared about improving their operation. They would make sure things were done right. And when IRS, let's say collection offices, put people in installment agreements, they would explain to them what constitutes a binding agreement, how the transcripts work, and how the taxpayer can break the agreement by not filing and paying on time based on special rules that the taxpayer doesn't know. And that's why to this day, I made these cards up a while back, I think about 6 years ago, saying tax problems solved. And I say, um, after thousands of successful cases, uh, chances are people who think they're in a payment plan, like 90% of people who think they're in the payment plan are really not, and they're subject to levy. And you really can't do anything about that unless you check the transcripts and you understand the terms of the agreement and you coach your clients on making sure, according to these special rules, that they file on time, pay on time, make their monthly payments on time, and they're not what most people think. Okay, rent's over. You're crazy if you try to handle the IRS yourself. Call Stephanie 713-774-4467, and we will help you. And if you don't have a lot of money, do my consultation. Let me educate you, and you'll know more than some of these tax factories that charge you $2, $3, $5,000 and then screw up your situation anyway. Thank you.